There's a place, a school, an institution where a professor resides. One that for the past 30 years has traveled the world teaching others. A pioneer in America of the fighting science of Savate. One who codified the sports of this fighting style. One who has produced clubs, champions, and continues to develop. Listen to words of Professor Buitron.
Hope you guys are doing well. Thank God I am. We had a tremendous week. We just finished our event, which was also a fundraiser for USA Savate. We can get some money, get a ring, and maybe we can start training some folks to fight in the ring again in the near future. But the event was, let's bring back a handshake. It was tremendous. We had boxing legend Delio Baby Red Palacios, also Hassan, the Iranian assassin Chitaz. We had karate legend Jerry Fast Feet Fontaine. We had our Texas State representative, and we had our associate municipal court judge Nathan Chu, and also State Representative Richard Raymond, who gave a great talk about issues that are coming up and stuff like that. And it was enjoyable. We had more people than what we expected. It was tremendous. Other than the food that was cold, and it was brought out a little late. Other than that, everything went well. You know, it was actually a tremendous event. The kids were asking questions back and forth, and we will have it again next year. We'll bring in some new guest speakers and some different variety for people to ask more questions, because it was actually a fun event. But all in all, we move on to this. We were training last week and with some of the guys that were here, and we're joking back and forth about the differences, because everybody's been around for a while, right? And we kind of coined a new word, a Neva-Student. A Neva-Student. What is a Neva-Student? That was funny when we brought it out. Listen, folks, you're going to have students, and you're going to have some Neva-Students. And I'm going to kind of bring out some stuff out there, and I'm going to associate it with some issues that came, some people that we get. And listen, I've been in the martial art business. I've been teaching since 18 as a business since 1990 to the present. I've had clubs. I had a club in France. To the day, I'm still the first non-French to have a club in France of Savate. You know, a lot of people don't know. They say, who is Professor Buitron? Well, I'll tell you a little bit. You know, I became the first American silver glove in France. I became the first American professor of all the disciplines in France. I had a club in France. I fought in France. At one particular time, I was third in the world, and I blew it for an accident on my hand. A little bit of history about me. Well, you're in the first school of Savate. School recognized by the French Federation and by the International Federation back in 1990. I'm not talking about clubs or movements. They're totally two different entities. I'm talking about a school that was dedicated just for that. Over the years, it's changed. When my Sifu of Kempo passed on, we started teaching Kempo. We ended up opening up under USA Savate the World Pugilist Hall of Fame, and you can see some of the uniforms behind me, some of the patina in the wall of where they're at. In the back, you have Grandmaster, two of the best Kempo men in my book that lived, that's still alive, Grandmaster Huck Planis, and of course Seagun Stephen LeBounty, two legends of Kempo. But let's talk about students. Sometimes we as martial artists want to open the door for everybody and accept everybody to come in, and we never really filter them out until they filter themselves out through the school. And sometimes it can cost you money, cost you students, cost a downgrade in the school, cost the school to lose energy, and all that good stuff, okay? Because sometimes you can let in bad elements into a school, and then later on you figure out that you made a mistake. How will you know you made a mistake? Well, there's some red flags, man. Pay attention to them. At least I do. One of them is flattery, okay? When you have a person that comes in there and says, I've always wanted to train with you, I always wanted to be underneath you, and is talking bad about the other instructors that they had before, that's a red flag. The students that come out and they say, well, you know, I've always heard about the school. I always wanted to be training in your school, but I was going to so-and-so martial arts, and I didn't get a black belt because of politics, so I went with so-and-so Taekwondo, and I didn't get a black belt because of politics, so I'm coming to you to get my black belt. Well, number one, there's no black belts in Savate. Maybe in Kempo there is. But what happens? You're going to be the next person they're going to be talking bad about. Okay? Open your eyes. Let me take you back to a story. When I first came back to Laredo, not open up because the school was already here. My dad was teaching, my uncle was teaching. My uncle had passed away. My dad was teaching, and he had a iniciador underneath him teaching here. So I moved back. We started changing things. I said, you know what? Everything has to be on top. We have to pay the tuition on time. All of a sudden, the professor became the enemy. And there was one guy that came in here. I'm going to name him Marco. Marco came in, the first thing, oh my God, everybody's afraid of you. They know that your guys, you know, they're tough in the ring. They're always winning in the ring. I want to be just like that. Everybody's afraid. I'm taking martial arts down the street, and I'm going to come over here. And I don't want to be over there because they don't know how to fight, and these guys don't know how to do this. And I went to the other school, and they were going to give me the black belt, but they didn't give it to me because I was better than they were. So I'm going to come to you. And I told them, and I said, listen, Mark, I want to tell you something straightforward. I said, when am I going to become the fourth school that you're going to be talking about? What do you mean? And I go, because you're talking bad about all the other guys that are teaching here, and I know them personally. They're great guys. They don't do what we do, but they're great guys. They might not take people inside the ring, because at that time we were taking people in the ring, but they take them to the karate tournaments. They have proficient individuals there. Then you find out that the reason he left was because he was not paying them tuition. He was months behind, you know, and one of them he was, you know what I'm saying? So he owed money, he had bounced some checks. So you're going to be the next one. Believe me, when you're interviewing a student, you're bringing them in. It's not that the student comes in there and signs up and here's the money, accept them. If you're doing that, you're doing a big mistake, because one day they can ruin your school, believe me. Those are called Neva-Students, because even though they're working out in your school, they're never your student. They're always talking about something else. They're always destroying the fact of what you're doing. They're going to be talking bad about you to the other students, even when you ask them for tuition. And believe me, the bad talk is going to start when you ask them for tuition. And you say, you're late. Oh, the professor's this. The professor's that. And guess what happens? They start bringing down the morale within the students. Let me tell you another, that's a red flag, and you have to be in their flattery. The other red flag that you have to watch out is bringing in somebody here that as soon as there's a girl in there, they say, oh man, that's a pretty girl, turns around and starts looking. Why? Because they're going to cause havoc inside your school with the women. Make sure you let those go as well, because it's going, you know, it's supposed to be a good energy element. Some schools might like that, to have that in there. Some schools, they don't care, as long as there's people coming in the doors. But you're not going to sustain somebody in the long future. You want a student that's going to develop. You know, a silver glove of Savate takes 5 years to produce. You want that person to be in a comfortable environment for 5 years. And hopefully you can build them enough for them to have enough material for them to become coaches and open up a movement, whether they teach at your school or whether they teach elsewhere, to develop the art. That's what I'm looking for. You know, only because you're teaching elsewhere, you have a coach license, or you have an initiador license, or you have an aid monitor's license. That doesn't make you a professor. It's sad because in Brazil, there's more professors of Savate in Brazil than in the history of professors in France, where it was developed. Mexico is starting about the same thing. Everybody you look up to in Mexico is a professor of Savate. Why? Because they don't have that tradition. They just think you can give it away. Unfortunately, it's lacking. It's going to deteriorate the art. You see it. You see it all of a sudden. You don't see the lack. Let's just kick hard. There's not that accuracy. So you start depleting that fact. So I'm going to stop talking about that, but I'm going to get back into the Neva-Student. Because I like that word. I think we have to coin it, the Neva-Student. The other red flag of a Neva-Student is the one that comes in and starts talking about when rank is going to be given to him. Okay? Well, I'm gonna take the test for blue glove. Okay, you're preparing everybody to take the test for blue glove, and all of a sudden you say, okay, you can take the test. You're ready for it. They don't show up. For the next year, they don't show up. 2-3 years, they're in and out of the school. They come back and they say, how come I'm not a silver glove? I've been here for 4 or 5 years. No, you've actually been here probably about 6 months. In continuum. You've just been in and out of the school for 3 years. Understand? Those are never students. Okay? They're never going to propel forward. But when they do come, they will degrade the school that's inside. So you have to understand how to deal with those individuals. When you're bringing in a student, when you're doing a student enrollment, you have to look at all the little red flags that are there. One, are they able to pay on time? And it's not about money, but I'm going to tell you why money's involved, and it's crucial for this. Number one, you have to make a business. You have to make a business out of it. Second, you have to keep the doors open. Okay, we've been looking to move from here, even though we've been here for such a long time, to move for a bigger place because I want to put a ring. I want to put more material for us to work out in. I mean, per month you're looking at a $6,000 investment. If you're paying $100, you need 60 students to be in, just to keep the rent going. That's not overhead. That's just the lease. Understand? So you have to understand business, how it is, and how to keep the students going in there. So if you get a Neva-Student inside your doors, believe me, it's never going to grow. This is what I like to hear when the student's enrolling, and he's been in martial arts somewhere else, and he says, you know what, Professor, I like Savate. I've always wanted to do Savate. I got my black belt down the street. I've had my black belt for the last 6 years. I want to learn something different. Do you think if I can be, do you think it'll be good for me? Invite them in, see if they like it. If they have potential and they want to change, then let them do so. Savate is not, a lot of people say movement is movement, and when you kick, and when you block, you block. It's not the same. The movement in Savate is a lot closer to boxing than it is to Taekwondo. Even though you can take a picture of somebody kicking high in Taekwondo and Kung Fu and Thai boxing and Capoeira and in Savate kicking to the head, it's kind of going to look the same in a picture, but it's different in movement. So you have to understand that if the person is willing to change and willing to learn, they will become good students. I have many students that come from other arts. In the past, some of them have been with me for 20 years plus. Okay? And some of them have been with me for 15 years plus, 10 years plus. Why? Because they were willing to change. Then I have a lot of students that are with me and then had never done any martial art, and the first martial art was Savate. So with that said, those are the students that they want in there, that they want to change it, and they say, you know what, I moved from another town, I'm coming in here, I would like to train with you, would you accept me? Yes. I'll even accept somebody that's trained with other schools here, but not while they're doing the same thing, because it conflicts it. You see, a lot of people take it wrong when people start cross-training. Some schools would say, yes, I'm the type of person, go ahead. You know, we have seminars all the time of different martial arts. Why? Because I want to expose my students to all the different martial arts that there are, for them not to recognize it for the first time or realize it for the first time in the street. Understand? My mentality is a little bit different. But other teachers would look at it and frown upon it, and they won't allow their students to even do a seminar somewhere else. Why? Because they're afraid they're going to lose them. Those type of teachers are bad. They have a different mentality in the back. To me, it doesn't matter. What matters to me is that they become proficient enough, they're capable of defending themselves, and they're moving forward. So, with that being said, be careful when you're bringing in Neva students. Remember that. Because they were never your student from the beginning, and they could care less about anything else, but they're just going to take your time. They will cost you money, and they will destroy the element of what the school or the club is, especially those Neva students, because they're going to be talking bad about everybody else. Just a matter of time when you'll be the next person to be talking about. If you like this, share it, put some comments on the bottom, send me an email if you have some questions. We'll try to answer them in certain facets. There's a couple of videos in the near future we're going to be making on specific techniques and so on and so forth, but sometimes this type of backroom door logic of a school is what is needed. Till next time, much peace. Take care.